All right, so welcome to the Chaos Cast. We're doing something new today. We're not going to be as much doing the preaching today because I kind of need a break, and the Lord led us in a different direction. We're going to have a testimony service today, and we're going to be talking to my friend Eric Peacock. Now we're waiting on him to kind of figure his way through and how to get into here and how for us to get him on the dual live because he's never done this before. And so yeah, you just stick with us. Maybe you are an addict. Maybe you have dealt with some addiction. Maybe you are looking for freedom from that. And when we talk with Eric, he's going to explain to us how God broke him free from that situation. I believe right now we see that, I think it's 48.5 million Americans every year battle a substance disorder. Um, and I thought we had seen it. Is it bringing him up? Can you see it? There he is.
Hey,
He
here we
figured
are.
it
Look at
out.
that.
You got some sound on you?
I do. Can you hear me
Uh,
good?
I can't hear you as well. Can you turn your phone all the way up?
It's all the way up. How about, is that better? What
It's
about
it's
now?
not it's not as loud. Um, I don't know. You may have to get right up on it.
What about that? How's that?
Uh, I'm
Still
not
no
sure.
better.
It may be because you sent that request. Let me take that off there. Let's see. Maybe I've got that off there.
All right, what about now?
Hey, still having some issues with the sound. I'm not quite sure what would cause that. But,
It may be my phone, buddy.
oh, that's fine. Hey, my phone do that stuff too. But we'll go with what we got, and
Okay.
I'm gonna get closer to the phone.
Okay.
That's what I'll do. So, I'm, I'm kind of giving our introduction here. 48.5 million Americans battle a substance use disorder, in the past year. That's basically 16.7% of Americans. 10.2% of Americans 12 and older also had an alcohol use disorder in the past year, and about 27.2 million Americans 12 or older, 9.7%, are reported battling a drug use disorder in this past year. So that's what I'm pulling up on Google right here, and
Yeah.
we're going to get into that. That's kind of part of your testimony from what
It
you've
is.
told me.
It is. Big part of it.
All right. So just kind of, I guess, the way to start this off is to kind of, I kind of get into, your childhood. Kind of what brought you to the point, kind of what makes you you and what brought you to that point and what brought you out. And I guess we could start with that. So I'm going to let you talk and you just go ahead and start us off. So how was your childhood? Was it a pretty good childhood?
It was great. I very blessed kid. Grew up playing sports. Grew up on a farm, which is amazing. Had a lot of great friends. Kind of went through a period. I kind of remember the first times I had anxiety and depression, but I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
And when my dad, he had to have back surgery. He was manager of Save a Lot, which was always cool going through there. But he had back surgery, and seeing my dad, that I thought was superhero, I'll never forget him crying on the way from leaving my granny's up there because he wasn't gonna be able to buy for us. And I just felt such that feeling in my heart of that anxiety, that depression. And then things got better, things went on, we got better. Then like always been into sports, and especially being well known in this town. Peacock has a pretty good name in this town. Everybody knows it,
Mm-hmm.
especially my dad being store manager at Save a Lot. But getting into high school, starting to dabble. I didn't really dabble with drugs until later on. Kind of toward probably junior, senior year, sophomore year. But we'd have somebody to sneak a chewing tobacco or something like that, and it just didn't think it was nothing. But when that chewing tobacco leads to a drink, that drink leads to a pain pill, to think you're cool, to lead to that part of trying to get that chest to calm down, trying to get that mind to calm down. Went through a pretty hard breakup right after. Well, let me step back on this. So played football, die hard. I love putting in the work, put in the energy, and ended up messing up my knee on squats. We was doing powerlifting that day and maxing out, and my knee cracked, fell down. So that put me out for a while, and they don't really do it as much anymore because of this reason, especially being young. So when you have surgery, especially back then, they make sure you're not hurting. They give you pain pills. So that was the absolute, I didn't care nothing. Set the house on fire. I'm okay. Nothing's going to bother me when I have this pain pill in me. But when that one pain pill doesn't do the same as it did before, and you got to take two, and then you're taking three, and then before you know it, you go through a bad breakup, and it just sends you spiraling down, and not understanding and being a young man and not knowing what to do, and so confused in life. And then you start taking a little more and a little more. And before I knew it, I was working at Lodge Cast Iron, getting high to go to work and going to work to get high, Bubba. It was hard.
One thing I'm listening to you, but I thought I'm gonna Google how many people became addicted to drugs and to narcotics because of prescriptions.
I'd say it's very high, especially for young people. Because that's kind of the first time you get it, because you think, oh, a doctor's giving it to me, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But
you're not the first person that I've heard, bring this up, and when you look it up, it doesn't talk about how the doctors are prescribing stuff they probably don't need to be prescribing. It's talking about abuse of prescriptions, people misuse, like they're putting it on the person. But I've met many people that well, it gives this statistic, says among people aged 12 or older, and this is in 2021, an estimated 1.8%, or about 5 million people, had a prescription opioid use disorder in the past 12 months. So that's 2021. That's just 4 years ago. I've talked to people that that say the same thing. Maybe they went to the dentist. I knew a woman that went to the dentist, and it made her feel better. Now, I went to the dentist one time, or I had to call. I had a dry socket from a wisdom tooth being pulled, and I was in the Smokies, and I was swelled up, like half of my face was swelled. And so they called me in a prescription to the local pharmacy, and I went, and it was, I think, Oxycontin. I'm not sure of the terms, but or hydrocodone, one of them two. And I remember distinctly taking one pill right before a pastor friend of mine called, and I was talking to him, and I was going 90 to nothing. I was excited, and I remember in the middle, I remember saying, Jason, I think I'm high. He started laughing. I said, they gave me these prescription for pain because I have a bad wisdom tooth. I said, I can't take another one of these. I said, I'm about ready to bounce off the walls. And he started laughing and said, yeah, you bet you feel like Superman. Yep. But I can see, because the next day, when it wore off, there was a big temptation to go take another one. Yeah. And I realized in that moment, I said, I can't do this because most of my family has dealt with addiction. My family's dealt with drinking. We've had a lot of just issues in our family dealing with that. And currently we have family that's dealing with addiction. And I didn't want to let that happen. I didn't want to open up that Pandora's box, because I know what it could do. And what you're telling me.
Well, hey, that's awesome for you to be able to do that. I'm jealous of people, like, for you to be able to do that. Could you imagine if you would have went down the same path I did and wouldn't have been strong that one time? You would wouldn't have that job at Toyota, Bubba. Which we don't know
I
what would
wouldn't be
happen.
talking to you right now. I wouldn't be doing none of the stuff the Lord's opened the door for me to do.
Hey,
Um,
amen.
I've talked to people that would buy prescriptions off of other people.
Oh yeah.
And it's not uncommon. It's more common. The opioid addiction is just rampant, and sometimes I almost feel like that it was engineered, to be so, because when you look at a lot of these documentaries that are coming out on it, you're seeing where the kids, you were a kid, they're giving you opioids, you don't know nothing about what to do with it, and you already have an addiction before you go into adulthood.
Right.
So you developed this addiction. You talked a little bit about going to work. You felt like you taking this to go to work. What I guess what were you doing to fulfill this addiction? What did you have to do to, what kind of money were you spending? Were you having to steal? Were you having to be dishonest? What happened to, you had to be real resourceful to keep that kind of addiction going?
So
What did you have to do?
one thing I do take pride in, and I can't go back and change anything, and I wouldn't because I learned so much from it. I won't be the man I am now. Feel bad that I hurt people, but I never stole. Was I
Mm-hmm.
dishonest? Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
It's
have to
part of
be.
it. Yeah, and
If you're going to do that, you have to be, I guess. I mean,
oh yeah,
comes
yeah.
with all sin
It,
and
and it's
addiction.
like it's like we was talking last night on the way back from Huntsville. Uh, you know, it's kind of talking about addiction, and it's supply and demand because people, say if I have this four-wheeler out there and you want to buy it, you ain't got the money. You're like, it's just not meant to be. It's all right. But if you were deep in addiction and like, hey, I got 10 pain pills over here, I want $20 a piece. Bubba, you're gonna start selling everything. You have to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget, and Lord, don't let me start crying. I sold my. It was a 12 gauge my grandpa gave me. I sold it. Well, traded it for 3 pain pills.
Man.
I'll never forget it. But I think it was one of the things that was supposed to work out because I still feel horrible about it, and that's one of the small reasons I don't want to go back to that life. And it's something
So,
you always deal with. I believe once, and people have their own opinion, but I feel like once you're an addict, like right now, sitting here today talking to you, Denny, I'm an addict. But
mm-hmm.
you will always be an addict, in my opinion. But there's a difference between an active and a non-active addict.
Yeah. Yeah.
Non-active, you know, but it's something you always deal with, and thank goodness God gave me my job at Lowe's Ear. There's multiple people that I work with that have helped me even when I was trying to get a little bit better and a little bit better. That just God put me in that spot. He said, "Hey, you need to be around these people." They have Chris Sanders, my buddy Tiny, my brother. He has 20 years of sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other buddies, little feller, Jason McQuarrie, he has 20 years of sobriety,
Yeah.
and that's rare to hear. That's awesome. You know,
Well, there's scripture on that where it talks about there being safety amongst many counselors, good counselors. I'm paraphrasing because it's early, but yeah, it's good to have mentors like that surrounding you. I mean, having people that you can confer with, contemporaries to confer with, mentors to confer with. Like we were talking, iron sharpens iron.
oh, that's right. That's it.
Good Christian men. Um, it's always been something I've found in my life to have good people I can go talk to. I got my pastor, I got my dad, I've got folks like Jason Lee, I've got people like well, Brother Thomas. I hadn't called him in a while, but he was somebody I would go talk to when I was a younger minister. He was one of my pastors growing up. There's numbers of people that I can talk to, and I'm thankful for that. And really, that comes to a support group. Basically,
It is.
you have support. You got to have support, and it needs to be people that believe like you,
Right.
because they're going to help you towards it. Now, you were talking to in some of our conversations about did you ever sell? Did you ever try to make money selling pills or in
Oh
that
yeah.
manner?
Oh yeah. I would, and the Lord was with me the whole way. I would go down to Atlanta in some of the roughest neighborhoods. I had to wear all white, and this is how deep I was into this, and I love the thrill of it. Of almost, might have a chance of getting caught because I wasn't in the right mind frame. But I would go down to Atlanta. I had a white Honda Civic, white tennis shoes, white sweatpants, and a white hoodie. And if I had a hat on, it had to be white. That
Now
meant I
what's
was neutral.
behind that?
So a lot of because I was going in where the gangs were,
Uh,
man. So like I don't remember the actual gangs that was down there, but so the kind of the two most famous like kind of gangs that have color is the Bloods and the Crips, the blue and the red. So most gangs have a certain color or they dress a certain way. So I was going down there to just get pills, buying pills from them to come up here and sometimes double, triple my money. But wearing that white, man, I was neutral. And I saw the craziest things, women getting uh just mistreated, just used horribly, and kids in horrible situations, young kids that was looking up to their father and seeing all this. And I felt guilty, but it was the devil that kept telling me to just go on. It's all right. You're gonna be making money. You're doing the right thing. But it wasn't, Bubba. And it was scary, and that's kind of one of the ways I kind of paid for my own addiction was going and buying down there, coming back up here and selling,
mhm.
and it was you know good thing I didn't get caught because I wouldn't. It's one of the things I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. I mean, it all works together, for his purpose and his plan.
It does.
You've seen those things. Now you're here explaining what you've seen because there may be a young man or a young woman that's watching or a parent that's watching. They're starting to see certain tendencies.
Right.
I see. I kind of see. Where you're getting emotional about it. It's you're reliving the trauma in a way,
Right.
and in some ways that's good because that's
It
a good
is.
reminder.
Right. I'll never forget my cousin James Davis. He so you have stuff pop up on Facebook, 6 years ago, I have this picture, that picture. Uh Yesterday when me and Drew had went down to go get a drink when we was early into that event yesterday, my phone popped up or a notification came up and I looked at it and it was Snapchat 8 years ago. Boy, my eyes were out there. My hair was out there. I didn't look healthy. I looked horrible. And I showed Drew, my Drew Meeks, my cousin, and I said, "Man, look where I was 8 years ago, but look where I am right now. We're at
Mm-hmm.
the what was the name of it we went to yesterday?
Life
Life Search.
surge.
Life
Yeah.
Search.
Yeah, that was a great
That's
conference.
oh, that was amazing, man. I needed it.
Did
I
you
needed it.
would you have seen yourself being in church, being at that conference 6 years ago?
No, no. And I grew up in church. That's kind of something I skipped. I grew up in church and loved it. But I was one of them teenagers that would go party on Saturday night and then show up to church on Sunday and think, oh, since I made it to church, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
right. But that was just, you know, me telling myself lies. But man, I where I am right now, I never would have thought about it being married, and that's another thing that God blessed me with was a beautiful wife that supports me, that puts
Yeah.
up with me. You
So
know,
one of the things you're talking about, like I've seen you're we've talked before. You're very involved in the community. You're working to help kids not get into this. You're working in sports. You're promoting prayer. You're doing ministry, and and one of the things we talked about, you were you were talking about, and it shows how Christ can flip it, because you're a giver now, but you kind of talked to me about the pricing game that you would do, I feel like I need to bring this up
Go ahead.
because
Do it.
somebody out there's buying and they
Hmm.
think this person's got their back, and you kind of, you weren't as bad as some are, but you explained to me how the pricing game would work and how you would use people's addictions, like,
Oh yeah, to benefit myself. I had a couple buddies I would take care of. So when I would come up here, I would have a sandwich baggie of the could be the hydro tins, hydrocodone tins. Look at me, I still use the old names. Heaven, sorry, Lord. But I would take care of my buddies. You know, I would just give them at whatever cost was. But I still had 300 other pills. So at work, say if, so which I know Denny would never do this, but just for example, if I was at work early morning, as soon as we go to clock in, if Denny didn't have nothing, and I knew when people got their stuff, I watched them. I could tell when people were starting to go through withdrawal. So I studied it a couple months. And I would wait. So if Denny came in, I knew he was going through withdrawal. I knew what day it was. And about, cause I could see how people go. And he came up to me, hey Peacock, let me get a pain pill. All right, man. And at the time, prices were average of $7 or so. I'm like, all right, man, $10. Man, I ain't paying $10. Okay, cool. Then he comes after a few hours. Then he comes up to me at first break. Hey, man, I'll go here. Here's $10. Let me get that pain pill. Oh, it's $14. I ain't paying for 14. It's going up next time. But that's supply and demand. It was so crooked. But when you're in that mind frame of thinking you're invincible, I didn't care.
yeah,
I just didn't care.
you were a taker.
Yeah.
But we've all had those instances. That's kind of the point I think I wanted to bring out. We've all been takers at one time or another. I remember there's been times, in the past when I would be at a job, I was a taker. There were times, and I think we've all done it. There were times, in my marriage where I was taking more than I was given. There was times in church when I was taking more than I was given, and I wasn't producing nothing. I wasn't helping others, and I'm not saying that I'm not trying to bring anybody down. What I'm saying is that's a lot of the change when you begin to serve Christ. He don't just fix you. He uses you. The iron sharpens iron. He's like a blacksmith. He's in there forging. He's in there heating you up. When he brings you in, he starts heating you up. He starts reshaping you. He's taking the plowshare over here and turning it into a sword for battle against the enemy. And a lot of times the enemy hamstrings himself with the things that he does to you while he's got you. He don't realize God's playing not 4D chess, not 5D chess. He's playing 10, 20D, infinite D chess. The devil can't keep up. So what you were going through, the things you were doing, the stuff you were getting into when you were in the drug atmosphere. Well, now here you are. You know these things. You know what to watch for in kids. You know what to watch for in people. You know how to be a minister. And here you are on a podcast, on a live stream, talking, sharing your testimony with somebody that may not even realize what's happening to them.
Boy, ain't God good.
He is. He is. Brother, so you've come into all this. You've got the game down pat. You know the deal. You know how to make the deals. You know the players. You're going into these neighborhoods that are, you're wearing a certain color to survive, to be neutral, to get what you need to get. And when did you start realizing you needed to change? When did it start getting scary? When did it start getting evident something's got to change?
When I just that ultimate guilt felt horrible. I wasn't happy with who I was. I got away from my high school friends and uh, Jared Summers, Lance Cooper, Christian Kirk. We were so close, and they kept on the right path. But I was always the one that was a little bit crazier than everybody else. So going out, and all of a sudden I went to go. I didn't hang out with them for about a year and a half or so, and I went to go hang out with them, and I felt like I didn't know them, and because I wasn't the same person I was a totally different animal. And then just feeling just the absolute guilt, and God was telling me, hey, you need to change, and I didn't do it right then. But I remember seeing a picture. We was at a road. It's a picture of me and my sister, I believe. And I'll get you that picture. Let's see what it used to look like, man. I could have been on a don't do drug poster. It was awful because I was losing weight. I always been a big guy, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're losing weight." I looked at that picture, Bubba, of me and my sister at rodeo. I was probably 220 pounds. I'm 330, so 100 pounds less. And I thought, that's not me. That's not who I am. I can't keep going. And I started getting where I didn't enjoy doing the deals or anything, and I was paranoid because anybody could have told on me, or I could have sold to a cop that I didn't know and undercover, and what would happen if I did? But and my mama never giving up on me and keeping me going, and I didn't want to be in jail forever. I
Did
didn't want
did
to.
did your mother see what was happening to you? Did she ever talk to you about this?
She did, but she was at first she was kind of enabler because I'm her baby boy. Like, oh no, that's not it. Kind of in denial. But I tell you what, and I tell everybody
Hey, let's
this,
get
man.
that phone centered. I hate to interject, but
Oh,
it was
you're good.
going
I'm
like this.
I'm all over the place.
I know, bro.
But good.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to keep you centered so you can tell your story. But yeah, your mother was an enabler in the beginning.
Yeah.
And where did it go from there?
So it started getting. My mama never gave up on me. The biggest mama's boy in the world. I tell everybody that, and I'm so proud of my mama. Uh, she would walk down. So we would live on a family farm. It's her house and my house is probably 30 yards difference. She would walk down the driveway multiple times through the night and put a mirror up to my nose to make sure I was still alive because I was doing so much. And she never gave up on me. And the best thing that ever happened was my mama called the cops on me one time. And I thought,
Your
oh, mom.
own mother called the cops on you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so how important was that to this? How much did that? What was that the pivot point when your own mother decided to call the cops on you?
Yeah. 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 At first, I did. Yeah, I was so frustrated at first, but then all of a sudden, I realized if my mom would call the cops on me, as sweet as she is, something's wrong. I'm needing
Hmm.
help. I gotta get that help.
So
And
I hate to interject, but what would you tell a mother right now that has a son or a daughter or a spouse that is dealing with addiction? What would you tell them about enablement and being part of the problem as well as being part of the solution and
so,
doing what your mother did?
so first of all, don't tell them, hey, you gotta stop doing drugs right now. You gotta stop. 'Cause that's not how it works. It's not gonna happen. You gotta. An addict's not gonna quit doing drugs till he's ready to be done, till he's tired of it. So you got to show them the positivity of life without drugs. Finding a hobby, finding things to do, finding. I always love football, and just finding your thing to do, and always remember you're there. Yeah, they may be mad at you for a little bit, but if they really love you, like I love my mama, I'm tickled to death. My mama did that, and I know it was hard on her, probably harder on her than it was on me. But what's worse, they need to tiptoe around of making a loved one mad for a little bit because you love them, or all of a sudden walking in, and especially with all the fentanyl and stuff now, what's worse, making them mad right now to help them because you love them, or walking in and they're laid out on the floor dead?
Yeah. I mean,
Do that little extra work right now to prevent from that.
so what you said there in the beginning, you said you got to show them the positive life without drugs, hobbies, things they can do besides just
Yeah,
sitting there, just the monotonous drug use. You're just getting a fix every day. That's all it is.
yeah,
But then you got to show them the negative side too. And sometimes you got to be the one to. The parent has got to be the one to call the police. The parent's got to be
yeah,
the one to kick them out. The parent's got to
yeah.
be the one that says, "I'm not going to feed this addiction anymore. I'm not going to enable you anymore."
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
So that happened. So what started happening afterwards? Well, I mean, what? Give us just how did it go? How did you find Christ? How did you go from your mama calling the cops on you to you finding Christ?
So and it was a couple years after I got arrested. I would do a little bit better, and then I would get back a little bit better, back and forth, and sometimes that's what it takes. Everybody has their own opinion, but that's the path I went down. Um, so I went down that path, and I've watched some stuff about different videos about the Lord, and I felt that was a big like, oh, I watched a 20-minute video. I'm good for the week. That's good enough. But that's not how it works. And then I ended up God God said, hey, you need a woman, good woman to take care of you. And that's when my wife Megan came along. And man, that's been the second best thing for me. Um, the first, the Lord, of course, but her coming into my life, and our first date, I didn't have much money, not much money at all. Our first date, I told her everything. Boy, you know how scary it is on the first date with this beautiful woman that you love and talking to. Hey, I got to be honest with you. I'm a drug addict. I, this is what I've dealt with, and I'll never forget her looking at me. I still remember where we were sitting at a Mexican restaurant, and she said, "That's okay." And boy, you talking about 1,000 pounds come off my shoulder. So we started, we dated for a couple of years, and um, we got married. And my cousin Drew Meeks, it was at a North Jackson game. I'll never forget it because I grew up going to watch no- North Jackson football. I was always down there. I remember like uh, my cousin George Summers, Josh Harden. It was awesome to go down there, and I think this is the way God planned this. We was walking up under the bleachers. It was Drew and Bridget was doing concession stands for the North Jackson band, and me and Drew, we've always been close. But man, you talking about a magnet to go over there and talk to Drew, and I was trying to pull away every bit that I could to keep from going over there to that concession stands under the bleachers, North Jackson High School, and I couldn't avoid him. I walked right toward him, and we talked a little bit. And I said, "Hey, Drew, what time's church tomorrow or church Sunday?" And he told me, and we went. And we said, "Oh, we'll be there. We'll be there." Well, first couple of Sundays we didn't go, but God kept on tugging at my heart.
Had it been tugging at your heart like a lot before you went and talked to Drew? Like was
Yeah,
he waking up and saying, was he thinking, were you having dreams? What was going on that made you go that really started that?
people, the Lord sent me the right people
Mm-hmm.
to come talk to me to say, "Hey, to bring up the Lord."
Who were those
Miss,
people?
there was this lady, I can't think of her name right now, but we call her Miss Tina at work, and
Mm-hmm.
and she was working second, especially working second shift with a bunch of us young guys. She's the one that everybody always respected.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't cuss around Miss Tina, and she just had. You didn't have to ask her if she was a Christian. You knew she was a Christian. and she just started asking the right questions that started getting through to me, and and I just knew, and I just kept thinking about it, and I started remembering when I was in the youth group at church, and the things that all the fun that we would have, and just having, and this is one thing I always say, the ultimate comfort blanket. I wanted that again. So then we finally made it to a service, and I was in tears that whole service. I was in tears. And at the end of the service, I had Drew to go to, I wanted to go down there and pray. And boy, you talking about an amazing feeling. And I'd already been baptized. So was my wife, Megan. And we ended up, long story short, we ended up getting baptized together. You know how awesome it is to get baptized with your wife.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just,
I can only imagine.
It was so special. It was awesome. I've won a lot of great games. I've had, great moments at work. That was so special to start our lives. Being young and trying to have kids and to be baptized together. That it was amazing, man. That was just how it was supposed to be. And Megan had been baptized before, and just God setting everything up of how it was supposed to be. And that it's such an amazing blessing, because I was thinking, you always wonder who you're gonna marry. Who, and I was, especially being in that dark point, I thought, well, nobody's gonna want to marry me, but I don't know. God's great.
Lord sent the right one along to help you get on track. You had somebody to fight for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you gave your heart to the Lord, and you've dedicated yourself to the Lord, and now you're on a new path. What was it? Was it hard? Have you had? I mean, I guess we all know it's going to be hard, but have you had times when you've had to go to prayer? You've had to really fight, but you won.
Yes. I'd say weekly. It's the devil's. The devil knows what I'm capable of, but the Lord does too.
Hey, I love the heck out of that.
and he knows the stuff that I could get in this town, but God knows the prayers that I could spread and the joy in this town. And I was, so ashamed of what people would think of me in this town. I didn't go to North Jackson game for the longest. I didn't go here. I didn't go there. I would drive 30 minutes. But I don't want to go back to that. Yeah. I want everybody to see me. I want everybody to see what God can do.
Yeah. See, now you have a responsibility, because you gonna come on there and talk this testimony and everything, talk about the Lord. You got to let Him maintain it. You got to stay in prayer now.
That's it.
Prayer without ceasing.
But I guess it don't get easy automatically.
Say that again.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I said it don't. A lot of people think, once you get baptized, it's easy from there. Everything is golden. It's hard. It for me, it was hard, especially the friends that I had, and people knew how I was, and all of a sudden I was trying to change, and as soon as and you're not going to be perfect right away, because those little habits, you got to change the lifestyle, you got to change those habits, you got to change the jokes you made. I love making people laugh. You got to change your jokes. You got to change the way you talk. The people you hang out with, it's got to change for you to be better for you. And that was something that I struggled with for a little while. Still do.
Yeah. I think that is Christianity in a nutshell. We're humans. We're not perfect. We're striving for it. We're never going to attain it here on earth. So we're going to have to change our jokes. Sometimes we're going to tell the joke we shouldn't have told and go have to ask forgiveness for it. I think one of the things that really needs to be kind of pointed out here, and there were some things that I've seen that may have been because of that. Do you have, because the Lord will save us, but sometimes we still have to face the physical world ramifications of what we've done. Yeah. Is there something you're having to deal with physically because of the addiction, something that's going to be there maybe the rest of your life. Maybe it'll be able to be fixed, but you've had to deal with this because of what you did.
Um, I'd say definitely just part mentally, but also physically. Because I've always been the one that'd go a little bit faster, not running because
Mm-hmm.
I can't run for nothing. But you give me a motor, and I always was that one that wanted to go a little bit faster, and a little bit faster, and I loved rodeos. And when you're high on stuff, you don't feel it. But when I wake up now, I from where I didn't take care of my body, I gotta wake up. I gotta wake up 20 minutes before everybody else to
Mm-hmm.
be able to stretch my body and to move around just where I didn't take care of myself. Uh, but that's about it.
Yeah.
God's really took care of everything.
He kept you from facing more ramifications. His hand of grace, a lot of times, we'll be honest, and we don't realize it until we're out of it. One of the statistics I did pull up here, 3 out of 4 people do recover from addiction. But 1 out of 4, now this ain't 1 out of 10. This is 1 out of 4. Every 4 people don't recover. And I've seen people I've had friends that have overdosed. There were
Yeah,
young folks in my youth group that overdosed when I was a youth pastor. There are people that are in the family that they stayed in it and it caused death because of their actions. You're 1 out of 4. You're one of the 3 that made it. How does that feel knowing you're one of the 3 and it's because of Jesus?
why me? Why wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that 1 out of 4?
Yeah,
And that's because God has a plan.
God has a
There, there's
plan.
there's something, and as of right now, I feel like my calling is to coach these young kids. That's what I coach football, coach 2 basketball teams this basketball season, and to be able to keep prayer in sports means a
Mm-hmm.
lot to me.
Yeah.
It means the world to me.
And do
And
you ever? Do you? I don't. There's you don't want to share it with everybody, but has your testimony been an impact on any of the young folks that you coached or their parents?
I I think it has, and not even like not to the addiction part, but as far as dealing with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing. Uh, and especially, I think school is so much harder on kids now because of the social media and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Because when I was in high school, that's when social media kind of started getting big.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of kids that got really picked on because of the uh, the social media. There's a video of this or something other.
Yeah.
Man, it's so much stronger now, and everybody's a keyboard warrior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a
Hey,
couple of
brother, you
students
ain't
that
telling
were,
me nobody.
oh, like,
Nobody
yeah,
knows it more than I do. I've dealt with them.
right, right,
I've had trolls. One of the things you will find, and this is something you can always tell the kids, there will be those local bullies, but then sometimes you're going to have, and it's not even real. It's troll farms. They're paid for interaction. They're paid to
yeah.
tell you the worst thing they can to get you to comment. And I always accuse everybody of being a part of a Pakistani troll farm, even if it's somebody I know. I'm like, oh, look at such and such. That's part of the Pakistani troll farm,
Hey, what's up,
because
that?
then it automatically discredits them. It might be somebody from around here. I'm like, look at that. He's probably from the Pakistani troll farms. And then nobody paying attention to him. But, brother, you've come out of a lot. And I love hearing stories like this. One of the man that led me to the Lord had a similar story. And that was really what, as a young man, dealing with the addictions that I dealt with then, I dealt with porn addiction
Yeah,
at that time. And seeing that he came out of that gave me an inspiration that I could live a life for Jesus. And he told me, we were talking about, what I was doing. He said, maybe God's calling you to make a choice to him or that. And I had to make a choice. But that was the defining pivot point. And have I had the temptations? Yes. Have I fought them? Yes. Has it been hard? Yes, because I'm a man, and that's what you deal with.
Right.
Especially when you're a young man, like I was young when that came about. You were young when this happened. It came about because of something you had that you would have never expected, and but you had to make that decision.
Yeah.
You had to get to the, like you said, a drug addict ain't going to quit till they're ready,
Right.
and and that goes for any addiction, whether it's physical, sexual, um, you know, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. But I mean, you made it out. You're here to tell the story, to share your testimony, and I'm glad you shared it on my live stream podcast,
Yeah, man.
show, whatever we call in this
Honor.
thing now. It's just an event that happens every Sunday, and,
Yeah.
and we're trying to do our best to help people find Jesus. But um, what would you say to those that are skeptical about the power of God, about God in general?
Go to your closet. Pray. If you don't know what to say, just talk to God as if you're talking to your best friend.
Amen.
Start that relationship right there, talking with them and reading the Bible, and you will build your own relationship, and you will build that trust for God.
Mm-hmm.
It is powerful. There are moments that are like I remember the first time when we was getting back in church when I really got the Holy Spirit. Songs is what gets me. I mean, you saw me yesterday. I love songs. It melts my heart. And we have a lot of great singers at church. And that feeling that power and not so too much joy is scary for me.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand it. There's so much going on at once. You're seeing people up there singing and everybody's praising and you're feeling this energy and you're like, what is this? Why is my body feeling like this? Should I cry? Should I smile? Don't worry about the little things like that because God has you. Everything's gonna be all right.
Heck
Everything,
yeah. You
everything.
know, it will be. It will be in the Lord.
That's right.
It's sometimes too much joy is scary. Somebody that's not experienced a lot of it, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I appreciate you. I'm going to drop you down and finish it off. But you know what we need to do? We need to, we need to offer a prayer for that person that may need freedom. They may want to accept Christ
Yeah.
today, and that's what we're going to do. Maybe today you are like Eric. You're in addiction, and you're wanting to get out of the bad part of addiction and into free, the freedom as an addict. You want to come into I can't remember how you said it, but there's the two sides of addiction because you're always an addict, but
Active addict
before,
and non-active.
yeah, maybe you want to become a non-active addict today. Maybe you want to become a non-active addict, and you want to enter into the adoption of Jesus Christ. You want to accept Him as your Savior. Maybe today you want true freedom, true grace, true joy, true love. That's there to be had. You ain't never experienced this much joy. Hey, I'm telling you, so much joy. It's gonna scare you a little bit. It's what He's telling us, and I love that
Amen.
because that's the joy of the Lord, and it is our strength. And so today we're going to pray this prayer. If you are a sinner, all you got to do, you got to admit, Lord, I'm a sinner. Dear Heavenly Father, I am a sinner. And I cannot overcome this sin on my own. I can't overcome this addiction on my own. I'm giving you this sin right now, and I'm accepting your blood atonement on that cross as the payment for the cost that is there for sin. You're paying my debts today, Lord. I'm giving it to you, and you're coming inside. And Lord, I'm letting you come inside, and I'm going to serve you today. I'm making that commitment. Now, if you prayed that today, or if you pray that later today, if you decide maybe you're like Eric, and it's going to eat on you a little while, you got to get ready, then you
Yep.
are a child of God. You have been saved by grace. You are part of the new covenant. And there's some benefits there, and joy is a lot of it. Salvation from your sins. Freedom is another one. Your chains are broke. Now, my suggestion to you, if you made that commitment today, listen to this, is to find a Bible-believing church and start reading your Bible so you know what's what. So you can't be scammed by those people out there to scam you. They'll tell you stuff that ain't in the Bible. They'll make things up. Know the word and dedicate your life to Christ. Because there's no way to be a child of God, to serve God without being dedicated to Him, without giving your life to Him. That is what salvation. You're giving your life,
That's right.
and maybe you're coming back today. Maybe you're coming back to Him today, and I encourage you. Hey, rededicate and serve Him today. Look what it's doing for my buddy here. God has saved him. He is using. I'm going to tell y'all. This is my testimony. I started a new job. I'm getting up at the time when I usually was going to sleep. My body's going through a whole new withdrawal sleep.
Yeah.
I'm tired. We were going to a conference. I was almost thinking about backing out. I was so tired because my body is. I'm having to discipline myself. And this fella right here calls me up. He didn't even have my number. He calls me on Facebook, and I love talking with him. He always got me laughing, and he is so fired up that I mean it rubs off on me. I'm sitting there getting fired up too.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I got to get over
Iron
here. I don't
sharpens
know what's
iron.
going on.
That's right.
And we had a great time, and it ended up being way more than any of us I feel like expected. We learned a
Yes.
lot. We grew in our faith. We grew in knowledge. We grew in the kingdom. I feel like we're going to be able to help God with the kingdom more now, and other Christians. And now here we are doing a podcast. Because one of the things he tells me is the Lord laid it on his heart, and he didn't know God's been laying on my heart to kind of do a testimonial version of the Chaos Sundays, Chaos Cast. Men of God. And that's what I'm going to start trying to do, because that is one of my main focus. I'm going to minister to everybody, but this is a men's ministry at its heart because I feel like God has called men to lead. And right now, my brother here stepped up. And so we're gonna start working on growing that. Brother, I'm gonna drop you down, man. You have
Yeah.
a good Sunday.
Yes,
God
sir.
bless you.
Love you,
Love
bud.
you too. All right, so we had Eric Peacock on. He is a lively feller. He is hilarious. We are glad that that just got out there. That story is there. Share it with your friends. Maybe share it with an addict that's struggling. Maybe share it with your family that is maybe they're down and out. They're dealing with a mental issue. A young man, even young women, they're going to see this, and hopefully it can minister to them. Again, if you're not following us, hit the follow button. If you will share this for us, it helps us to get out there, helps the traction. I should have done this in the beginning, but again, we're doing something new. We're doing it at a different time. My whole schedule's messed up. Y'all bear with me. Y'all pray for me. I need prayer because I'm going to a whole nother level. God's taking me to a whole nother level on things, and I need that prayer. But we're thankful for her coming in, and we're thankful for those of you that watch this and that share this and that are a part of this. And maybe one day you'll be up here sharing your testimony with others and giving encouragement. And we're thankful for that. We're kind of building an online ministry. We're doing something different, something that's not really everybody's doing yet. I don't know how we're gonna do it. I don't know what we're doing, but God's leading this, and I'm trying to follow. So y'all keep me in your prayers, and we thank you for watching. Y'all have a good one. Come back next time.